Sorry, I missed that.
Oh, I was just talking about Cancelcon. Like I figured all
Oh
this
yeah,
out because I was
Cancelcon.
like excited about that because I think that'll be funny as fuck.
I'm so excited. I can't wait to get BTFO'd by Ben Shapiro like live.
With facts and logic.
Yeah, it's gonna be brutal, man. Fuck.
You know, I'm like anti-canceling, but Ben Shapiro makes me want to be pro-canceling.
Yeah. I mean, in some cases it's warranted, I guess. So, like, it is funny though, like, that of all the people who can, like, claim to have been canceled, I don't think any of them are, like,
It's all the
fucking
people who get,
millionaires.
yeah, they all
Like,
get fucking paid to like talk. Like, what do you mean you're getting canceled? You're literally making money off of being able to like express your political views. Like, what the fuck?
yeah. Fucking going, making, like, fucking $1 million talking at an event that, like, fucking millions of people are watching. Like, guys, I'm so canceled. Holy shit.
Yeah, do you know, I think his name's like No Fuckers or something like that.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. He made like edgy content back in the day with like I think he was like friends with Pyrocynical, if you know who that is. But he put out something like recently, and he said like there's this weird like worshipping of Russia that a lot of conservatives have, and he's like y'all are fucking like pansies. Y'all don't know what canceling is. Like you getting removed from Twitter or YouTube isn't canceling. He's like that's just capitalism. In Russia, you get canceled. You say some of the shit some of y'all say, and you're literally put in fucking like prison. So I don't want to hear anything about y'all's fucking like cancel culture or like
Yeah,
the left is canceling too many people or something. Which we do like have
yeah,
like a little bit of like going after people's jobs. I think is like fucked up, but like in the way that
yeah,
those people complain about it as if they can't speak is like ridiculous.
yeah. I mean, I do think that the troubling thing is I think there's an intelligent conversation to be had. Holy shit, my floors are fucking creaky as fuck. I think there's an intelligent conversation to be had about cancel culture, you know, what it should be defined as, if we should even use the term, you know, where it comes from, why it exists, and you know why it may be a good or bad thing. But it just bums me out because like this potentially really interesting and intelligent conversation has just been so like aggressively co-opted by like the most brain dead fucking right wing dipshits. I guess it's just really unfortunate.
Sure. You gotta make. I had a chat box on here, but it's not fucking working.
Damn,
Damn, whatever.
fuck. Sucks that I can't see all of my messages.
Oh my god. Yeah,
um,
I just think it's fucking like nuts. After I saw that video, I don't know, because he like it got on like BreadTube like Reddit or whatever, and the way he was like talking about how all these people were like pansies, and he was like, y'all don't even, you conservatives don't know. He's like, some of the shit y'all say would get you in prison. Like,
yeah,
what, you get a little bit of like hate on YouTube, and even at that though, like, even if they do get hate, like we just said, they fucking get paid like
yeah,
more money than I could imagine fucking making.
yeah. Like unironically, like I don't know, like it just feels like if you're that insulated from like the consequences of this shit, like I don't really have a lot of sympathy if like you're like, oh, people are being mean online. It's like then just don't look at what they say. Like that's what I do. You think I mean sometimes I'll look in my comments, but like recently like I just don't look at shit that people say because I think like most people who react to like anything that I do are generally going to be like pretty stupid.
Yeah, there's
Um,
always like there's also on all these social medias the block button and the mute button, and you can literally just not one, you can just not pay attention to it, or two, you can literally keep yourself from seeing it. So like I don't really think there's a need to like go out and like cancel people, which is why I think it's really funny is like the people who I think would be complaining about cancel culture or whatever aren't like, as much as they may to an extent, like it's just weird. The people who are hosting Cancelcon are like literally the people I would expect to think that we have free like hella free speech and we're trying to like maintain it because like I said, like they're getting paid more than I can imagine just to fucking talk about like reactionary shit. And whenever like I don't know, I can't get over the perspective of like when I was watching that video where the dude was just like, yeah, if y'all talked like that, you would literally be imprisoned. So, like, what are you like talking about?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I think there's a little bit of like mob like problems, like people on social media, like mob like coming out as a mob to like completely destroy someone and then going and finding their like job and getting them fired. Like, I think that's like problematic, and one way that's how cancel culture is bad. But like the conservatives in the U.S. have it like pretty okay. I mean, they can say like some pretty fashy like sometimes hinting at like Nazi shit and like not really pay much for it. Especially if they
Yeah,
have like
for
a
sure.
big enough like platform.
Yeah, 100%.
Like Milo, for example, like he doesn't like he's banned off of like everything, but he's still like slightly relevant, which is crazy. Like I mean,
Yeah, and that's the thing with Milo is like, I don't know, like a lot of people are like, huh, Milo's career was built because he was canceled, but it's like I don't think so. Like, people say that like Milo's like career was destroyed because people like on the left like got him canceled or whatever, and it's like, not really. I feel like Milo's career more or less was built by people on the left trying to cancel him, and I think that the only thing that really fucked him in the end was the fact that he got dropped from all of his like right wing donors for fucking
yeah, it's just
endorsing
it's less
pedophilia.
about like his like actually getting canceled and more just like the funds that he was
Yeah.
getting to like have that speech or like continue like broadcasting that went away. Like, and I would say like the left's attempt to cancel him like projected him. I mean, it was like the like look at all the snowflakes who are mad, like
For sure.
kind of like shit. I
I don't
mean,
know. It's kind of weird because like I don't know like what the underlying logic is. It seems that sometimes like canceling has had quote unquote canceling has had the effect of like making someone like rise to stardom because oh look at all of these lefty snowflakes who hate free speech trying to cancel me. They must be afraid of my really smart ideas. And that's like Milo Yiannopoulos. Like I think that's largely what built his career. But then on the other hand, you have people like Nick Fuentes who essentially has been fading into irrelevance due to um, you know the fucking like his deplatforming from YouTube.
yeah,
And I don't know because maybe the underlying logic there is like if you get like if you are like doing a speech at like a campus like what Milo used to try to do, um, uh, uh, and then like a bunch of lefties show up and they start protesting and screaming, throwing shit. That's really bad optics for the left. So I think someone like Milo can utilize those optics and be like, see, they're trying to shut me down. Whereas if like if your channel just gets like silently removed from YouTube, um, you can't really blame that on the left. Like that's just you like saying too many gamer words because you're not smart enough to dog whistle and then getting banned
yeah. It's
because of
it's
it.
all about like the uproar and the attention the left like gives to it. Like if we were to
Yeah,
silently like say a report like an account or something and not make a big fuss out of it, they would just like disappear without like the whole look at them trying to get me like and then all the right wingers coming to like their defense or whatever and then blowing them way out of proportion, which is like what I think like Milo was able to do. He was able to like harness the outrage and pull the whole like oh it's a bunch of snowflakes. But if we were just did I mean like it happens all the time. There's tons of accounts that like say like the gamer like bunch of gamer words and then they just get reported and they're gone. And I
yeah,
think that
for
like
sure.
works a lot better than like the like the reaction that we see in like the SJW compilations that people put on YouTube where people like freak out. It's just bad optics.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure. I mean, I
Yeah,
think it's a lot better for some of these universities to perhaps just not even allow people like that to begin with, because I think Milo even like openly said multiple times that like he never really cared for like having a good faith conversation. He would just go there on purpose, expecting this to happen.
Yeah, because he could like get people like riled up and mad, and it would boost his popularity. And if they would just like understood that Milo was bad faith from the beginning, they could just not let him be there, and he wouldn't get the uproar. Like maybe he would try to take advantage of like say the university not allowing him, but I think that's way less impactful than like getting a bunch of footage of all these like really mad like lefties or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, I think it's kind of like this. I mean, I don't know. I'm just kind of like looking, trying to figure out like, wasn't like there were other figures outside of Milo that had similar issues but never blew up like Milo. Like Charles Murray. Charles Murray, like, even though he is still like a major figure, he's not as like massive as Milo is.
I guess, but I think that's sort of like Milo's character just sort of like so smoothly played into like the 2016 like vibe. Like I mean Milo was really playing into that like, oh, look at these triggered snowflakes, they can't handle my funny and smart jokes. And I feel like he really appealed to like the anti-SJW crowd, like aesthetically, whereas someone like Charles Murray is just like a fucking pathetic old uncharismatic racist who nobody really cares about.
Yeah,
Yeah, it wasn't.
I think the thing
it
with
wasn't.
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, like Charles Murray, it wasn't just that he was a racist. It wasn't just that oftentimes he was very bad faith, and like even the academics knew like immediately who he was and not to allow him. It was also the fact that he was just deeply uncharismatic, like painfully uncharismatic at times.
Yeah, for sure.
I think also though Milo hit like a point, like Mouthy, you and I were talking about this yesterday about the sort of like not allowing any sort of edginess on the left or whatever. And I think there was like a point that Milo could kind of exploit there, is that like he could kind of appeal to those types because he's like, look, these people don't like your jokes. They don't like your sense of like humor whatsoever. You have to be super PC like over and over, which then I think drew in like people who necessarily wouldn't be like followers of Milo to become like followers of Milo because it became like a space where they could like, I don't know, make like a casual 9/11 joke or something.
Yeah.
I think it also was reflective of how people interpreted humor and intelligence. Like, if you were like an edgy 16, 17-year-old at the time, you probably also like grew up on people like Richard Dawkins or who was that other guy who was like really famous?
Was it a new atheist guy or?
No, it wasn't a new atheist guy. He was like a very controversial debater like back then, and it was like, and I'm trying to remember what his name was. Richard Hitchens. That's what it was. Hitchens.
Oh wait, Christopher Hitchens?
Yeah, Christopher Hitchens.
Okay.
People like that who are like extremely controversial but very intelligent and could easily be charismatic. And many people mistaken the fact that they were edgy as like evidence of their intelligence and charisma. So when they saw someone like Milo, who was charismatic and was edgy, they mistaken that as some form of intelligence and thought, oh yeah, this guy is like the next Hitchens, which fucking Bill Moore said. Like stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly true. I just feel like the mood of 2016 and the mood of like anti-SJW YouTube is essentially like all the anti-SJW wave ever was a bunch of dumb fucks who like thought that owning the libs is like the only political goal worth pursuing. Like these motherfuckers would like cheer on like an Adolf Hitler speech if it got like the libs triggered. And it's just like I guess they just would eat up whoever was able to do that, regardless of like how intelligent their analysis actually was. Which is just really sad, I guess.
That's
At
why we
least that's how I
gotta.
felt at the time. I haven't done a lot of like retrospection or anything.
That's why we have to tell people that if you go like left enough, you get to own the libs again. Become a
Yeah.
commie and you get to own the libs.
Becoming a commie to own the libs.
Dude, that's what I tell like a lot of the good old boys down the south. If you go far left enough, you get your guns back. If you
True.
go far left enough, you get your guns back, and you get to use them on libs. Not now, but later.
In Minecraft.
In Minecraft. In Minecraft.
God.
Listen, they want to take.
Fucking
Listen,
Jesus
listen.
Christ, dude. Holy shit.
Libs,
Gonna get me fucking canceled.
libs. They don't
Here's
just
a
want
clip
to
of
take
Mouthy Infidel laughing as someone else mentions killing liberals.
Oh my god.
Listen, it sucks here in the South. It really does, because the libs down here are pinnacle at times. Pinnacle, like stereotypical East Coast, like very educated, like identity politics driven people sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's so painful sometimes, like really painful. And
For
it
sure.
only the only way you can ever like get someone who is somewhat like a liberal leaning person to get elected down here is always going to be like this conservative Democrat.
Yeah, I get that. I live in Texas. It's great.
Dude, that's why we need. That's why, like, I really do think, like, I firmly believe it's a 3 Gs. If you want to get like elected to any political position in the South, the 3 Gs, which is God, guns, and gays. And we're getting to a point in society where like no one cares if you're gay or not. So that's 1 G down. You can probably get elected as like an open socialist or even communist in some places if you were just die hard like NRA dipshit and like
That's like where
were,
Beto like really messed up. Like in Texas, like being anti-gun, that's like the worst like
yeah.
political move you could do. Like
Oh, yeah,
he
like there
just
was
committed political suicide by being anti-gun in Texas.
yeah, and like also perhaps being like a big Bible thumper, like someone who is firmly into the Bible. And you can definitely like spin that around to like, and that's why some places like DSA is very popular. Like
That's actually the case though, like in a lot of places other than just Texas. Like some sort of religious like or some sort of spiritual sort of aspect of like politicians seems to be like super popular. Like I don't really think there's like is there anyone like in Congress that considers themselves an atheist really? I can't think of one.
there are a handful.
No, and
There are
that's
a
the
handful.
interesting thing is like me and Alex were talking about this the other day, and it's really interesting how like if someone were to say like come out and say that like atheists as a group of people are like oppressed, most lefties would like laugh at that and be like, yeah, okay, you're not oppressed because you fucking read The God Delusion when you were 13 like everyone else, dude. But it's like, I don't know, like especially in other parts of the world, like, and even in America, like I think more people said that they would vote for like a Muslim or a socialist as opposed to an atheist, which like is kind of fucking crazy to me. Like not in that like I think that like we should like an atheist would be better than a Muslim or a socialist, obviously, but just in the sense that like I know how the American public generally feels about Islam and about socialism, but like they think that atheism is even worse, and that's just fucking wild to me.
Yeah, I've
I
had
don't
a
know.
similar conversation with Alex where he just talked about how like underrepresented like atheists are, like especially in government. It's just weird. Like
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's just because like it's hard to get away from like religion, and to a lot of people it's super important. So you could have all the right policies, and then just being an atheist can really like make someone like think twice.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean that is a good point. Like atheists or underrepresented. Like being represented implies there's some kind of like policy or some kind of like mindset you would bring to Congress.
I
What
think there kind of is, right?
exactly? I mean, there might be, but what
Yeah,
exactly atheist policies would you bring?
yeah. Well, I mean, it's not necessarily like atheist policies. I guess it would more so be like I guess like an atheist mindset.
It's just a different point of view.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like I don't know. I just feel like a lot of the like the rhetoric that people use, like even Democratic politicians about like, oh, God bless America, and God is like leading our country. Like I feel like that a lot of that rhetoric can be like really really harmful, because I just get really weird about us like wrapping up our politics or involving our politics with like weird religious shit. It just makes me like super uncomfortable, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I think like atheist also would definitely be like more secular because we see like, for instance, in the Republican Party, there's definitely like religious influence, and I feel like you'd have like the, which I feel like kind of fogs the mind a little bit when it comes to like policy. Like, for instance, when people were like against gay marriage, I mean, that seems to stem from like some sort of religious like beliefs, like the traditional religious beliefs or whatever, and like having some atheist in like Congress would be good to kind of combat that at least a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like I like the general sense I get from the left community is I feel like so I feel like we had this like new atheist thing, right? Like the new atheist wave in like I don't know, fucking like 20 like the early 2000s, where you had like Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins, and everyone loved them, and everyone was uploading like Sam Harris destroys stupid fucking religtard on like there's all this kinds of things, and it was like the anti-SJW movement, but atheist. um, and I sort of like I get that that was annoying, and I get that a lot of the people involved with that engaged in some really harmful rhetoric about Islam, about in the case of Sam Harris, about American foreign policy in the case of Christopher Hitchens, about stuff like feminism in the case of Richard Dawkins, and like I get that. I think a lot of those new atheist types were, I'm not going to say stupid, but acted in very stupid ways on a lot of issues. And so I get like the aversion to that. But I feel like there's sort of been an overcorrection where now people are like, yeah, fuck the new atheist. Religion is actually good. And it's like, let's hold on for a minute. Because I think there's actually a lot of validity to the idea that religion is generally like objectively just a poison on society. Like that seems pretty accurate, and like there can definitely be certain instances in which religions manifest in net positive ways, but I think in general, any case wherein you're basing how you act on fundamentally irrational premises and irrational axioms, I think generally speaking, that's going to manifest in bad ways as opposed to if this thing didn't exist. I guess I explained that like really badly, but
No,
that's sort
I,
of like the way
I
that I
get
look
you.
at it.
Like, because these people's religious values are going to influence the way they push for certain policies, what they like
Yeah.
like what conclusions they come to on certain problems and things like that. And it's kind of like, I'm not gonna say it would overthrow our secularism because I wouldn't say it has, but it definitely combats it. Like it's definitely like, I mean, I would say like, for instance, the U.S. is like pretty heavily Christian, and in some aspects you can probably see that within like the way some of our legislation is written and things like that. Even though we're pretty secular, but I feel like it's just like it's always gonna be something that's combating like us maintaining being secular.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said about how like one of the first things you said interests me because it reminded me of like um okay, so one of the big critiques of capitalism that I levy is that essentially the profit motive sort of acts as a distortion, if that makes sense. Like, if you were to draw a Venn diagram of all the things that are produced under capitalism that are useful, or not even just the things that are produced under capitalism, but if you were to draw a Venn diagram of all the things that are useful and all of the things that are profitable, there's definitely going to be some overlap. So, like, for example, obviously I'm wearing a shirt right now. I find it pretty useful. Some capitalist out there found it pretty profitable to make the shirt. So that's like a win-win, right? But on the other hand, there's going to be some places where there is an overlap. So you're going to have instances where something is profitable, but it's not good for society. So under capitalism, it gets produced anyways, such as like carbon emissions, stuff like that, things that hurt the environment. And on the other hand, you're going to have things that would be good for society, but aren't produced because they aren't profitable to produce. So like, for example, giving everybody healthcare would be a good example of that. And it just seems like if you want a society that produces for the maximum amount of usefulness and utility, having a system that works on the basis of profit is always going to add a distortionary effect. And I think it's like a similar thing with religion, because I think like our aim as a society should be to understand reality as firmly as possible and try to orient ourselves based on what we understand reality to be. And I feel like religion, which just like adds in this a lot of like really batshit premises about the nature of reality, sort of distorts our ability to engage in reality in a way that is accurate and beneficial, I guess. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
like generally the
and
argument I'd
that'll
make.
like end up affecting like the legislation we pass and like the culture we manifest and all of these.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like for example, like imagine, okay, so like just imagine like a secular like moral worldview, right? I would say that from like a purely logical like secular perspective, there's no way that I could justify in a vacuum like just throwing like a gay person off a rooftop, or you know, killing a woman for I don't know, like cheating on her husband or something like that. Like I couldn't justify that. However, if I bought into the premise that, say, the Bible is valid and the Bible says I should do those things, then all of a sudden I can justify that. So it's like, if you distort people's view of reality, you're distorting how their moral axioms manifest in reality, which inevitably is going to lead to scenarios wherein people are being harmed unnecessarily because we've allowed this, you know, weird, misconstrued understanding of reality to manifest in our culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I mean, that's I think that's why like it's just why, for instance, with like a lot of conservatives, since they're usually pretty like religious. I mean, it's why like I brought up the gay marriage example, for instance, why people were like against that. It wasn't based on anything in like actual like reality. It was purely based on some like religious text that we can't even like say was actually written by, you know, God or whatever. Yeah, it just ends up
I
with like a
mean,
bunch of like illogical sort of things happening.
Yeah.
I mean, if we want to talk about the harmful effects of the religious justifications for actions, I mean, look at the QAnon movement. I mean, 99% of those people are deeply religious. And if you already base a lot of your morals or a lot of your beliefs on faith, what stops you from just basing, say, your politics on faith? What stops you from just saying, oh yeah, Donald Trump is fighting a evil cabal of pedophiles, and they are headed by Hillary Clinton, and they're all going to be arrested at any moment. I mean, you don't need any evidence to believe in that stuff. You just need faith. Because, again, you've already based a lot of your worldviews on faith already, so why not this? And that's why right now QAnon is not only in the United States, but it's now being exported to places like Germany and even Africa. Like the other day, I spoke to someone who had like their grandparents in Kenya who were like QAnoners, and it was just bizarre to me how like that was happening.
Yeah, I don't think it's any surprise that conspiracy like theorist types tend to coincide with like being religious. Like these two things seem to go hand in hand a lot. And I think it's right about like it's all based upon faith. Like if you can believe certain, like if you get your moral system based upon some faith in like a book, I mean, what's wrong with like putting just having faith that something else is right without having the like
Yeah,
any sort of evidence of it? Because I mean, you do that for like your whole like existence, like everything that you existed, you believe something that you can't prove. So why can't you just give that to everything? And I think
yeah, like if you believe God wrote a Bible that had an answer to everything, then you're gonna believe some 4chaner has an answer for everything for politics every now and then. You're gonna believe that as just as much.
yeah, he'll be like,
And
oh, they
that's
don't
sort of
want y'all
like
to know this, and then you'll be like, oh shoot, they don't want me to know this. This must be real, just like how they don't want me to read the Bible. Those darn atheists or whatever. Like, yeah, it's same mindset.
And one
it,
thing that
it
has
just
like
feels. Oh, sorry.
one thing that has gotten me like right now I'm taking a sociology and deviance, and one of the things I really want to research is how like when organized religion was coming up, how elites being defined as the kings and nobles back then would use religion as a form of putting down like peasant revolts, or use religion as a form of labeling certain religious beliefs as deviant as a excuse to put them down. And because that's also another thing, like we kind of look past, not only is religion used as say an opium for the masses, it's quite literally used as an antibody for the masses. Whenever you have, say, peasants looking at you and saying, hey, why do you have all this gold while we starve? You can just say, I have the divine right of king. And hey, look, the Pope says so, so why don't you believe me? Hey, you're a heretic because you keep on deviating from religious views.
I
It,
think
like,
another big issue is like one of the big issues with like the concept of religion for me, or like one of the things that I haven't been able to reconcile, is it feels like I feel like ideally the goal in order to maximize societal utility ought to be that we should constantly be updating the moral frameworks that we apply to society, and the values that we uh, uh, sort of instill within our culture and so on. I feel like these things should be constantly updated as we gain more information about what sorts of practices and norms do and don't maximize
Yeah, I
societal
would
utility.
totally
And I
I would
just feel like
totally agree.
religion.
And religion does the
I just feel
opposite of
like
that.
religion, like like it sort of ties us to moral standards of the past, and resist any change by claiming that these outdated moral standards are like the word of God and like absolutely necessary, which just seems like a really bad meme, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it makes us like put our moral system and go like buy a book, like buy like literally buy the book, and that book could like easily just be wrong, which I would say we've already seen that a lot of the morals that stem from religious text are like wrong. The consequences of them lead to bad things for humanity and whatnot. And if you're stuck to that, there's no like evolving. Like there's no like
Yeah,
figuring
for
out
sure.
what's wrong and then changing it, because you're stuck to it. Because if you're not, you're gonna go to hell or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah, I
and
would
not
agree.
only that, but it also seems like religion not only kind of keeps us back on a more and philosophical level, but even on a material level as well at times. Because when you look at the influence religion has on politics and how it's been used not only in the past but also in the present, like religion has always been like a massive opponent to say even the most bare basic of progressive politics. Like the history of like anti-communism has always been based in deep religious fervor at times.
Yeah, I mean, Nicholas just sent something, and he was like, "Someone mentioned this before, but it really feels like religion can often be used to justify regressive ideas for the sake of being, or a way of life that isn't grounded in a material reality," which is like exactly what we are just saying. Like it allows us to like continuously like stick to things that we know are wrong because it's the word of God or
Right, yeah,
whatever. It's
for
just
sure.
it's just super like problematic. It's why secularism's important and why we should probably have more atheists represented in the government. Just to at least have the point of view that will sit there and defend secularism.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, Nicholas, join the Discord. Jump in here, buddy. Eli was supposed to come play video games with me. What the heck?
Listen,
Fucking
you know how
Eli, dude. What a fucking Weasley.
What a
Liar.
fucking Weasley little liar, dude.
Fucking
you know how
secular Buddhist ass. Fucking.
you know how religion is cringe. Nicholas Fuentes is deeply religious and therefore cringe. That's how you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, it is funny. Like you say that as a meme, but Nick Fuentes is such a good example of this. Because, like, at the end of the day, Nick Fuentes will never be able to justify any of his beliefs on an empirical or logical ground, and will always just fall back to, well, God says so, so, this is, what's right. And like, that is the problem, is that if you believe in religion, and you believe that your religion says what you think it says, then, like, you don't need to logically justify anything that you believe, because like it's the word of God, it's divine, and I think that's just like a really harmful thing, I guess.
Not only that, but religion also restricts like personal freedom. Like there was so many people I met in my life that were closeted gay or even like trans, but never wanted to like introspect whatsoever because they were like very religious or they came from a very religious household. And whenever I would speak to them, it was almost like they were on the cusp of just saying it, but they didn't want to. And it was only after like years later they kind of say like when they get into when they get into college and all, they're like, yeah, I came out as gay. Yeah, I came out as trans. And my parents finally got to accept me after that, despite being religious, which is good for them. But it's the fact that it took so long for them to kind of get past that contradiction of being religious and being gay at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely makes it harder for like people to accept themselves if they like bound themselves to like some sort of a moral framework that they can't like logically argue against.
Using our favorite cat boy chaser, Nick Fuentes, I would not doubt that he's gay. I would not doubt that he is 100% gay and that he's lying to himself. Nick Fuentes.
Oh.
Yeah, cat boy Cammy.
I don't
like,
know. I don't know if he's actually gay. I do think it's funny to
I
like joke about it, but I don't know if he actually is.
Yeah, I don't like to like I guess assume. I don't want to like armchair psychoanalyze people, but I don't know. It would be pretty fucking funny if he was.
Interesting, but that's still interesting because
Yeah,
Catboy Cammy, for example, acts like the gayest human being possible, but is an open neo-Nazi.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wasn't the Catboy like way worse than Nick Fuentes himself?
Oh yeah.
I mean, didn't Catboy Cammy literally like do streams where he would just like do blackface and scream at black people on Omegle while like eating Kentucky Fried Chicken and shit? Like, wow, nice. Wow, that's so edgy. Like, wow, hilarious. I'm laughing.
I'm laughing.
I fucking hate that shit. I fucking hate people who like think that just being edgy is like a substitute for being funny.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
like
Edgy
if you're
can't
just
be the
like if
whole
you're just
joke.
like
It has to be an aspect of
yeah,
the joke.
exactly. Like if you're literally just doing blackface and eating KFC and watermelon and shit, like you're literally just recycling memes from like 20 years ago. Like nothing is funny here. Nothing is original. Like you're just relying on people who think that whatever is like racist is therefore like hilarious. I don't know. That shit really like that shit gets me. As someone who like as someone who really enjoys being edgy and as someone who enjoys comedy and as someone who really enjoys edgy comedy, I fucking hate it when people think that like being edgy is comedy. Like it's so fucking annoying.
It's sort of
Yeah.
like a bastardization of being edgy. Like
Yeah.
when people just make the whole joke being edgy. Like it's supposed to be an aspect. It's supposed to be something that like makes the punchline hit a little harder or something. But if you're just
Yeah.
saying things because you think they're edgy, it doesn't make it funny.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the one thing I really hate is like edgy jokes that have a point. Like say someone who's trying to satirize like say being a racist and they be edgy by doing so. Like a good example of this would be Blazing Saddles. It was like a very edgy humor where some of the white actors would like call like some of the other black actors like the N word and stuff like that. But it was used as a means to make fun of people like that. And
Yeah.
that kind of humor is kind of like looked down upon by some people, despite like it clearly having a point.
Yeah, I don't know. Like that's my issue is like a lot of the time like I agree. Like I'm not full like anti SJW like fucking edgy boy over here. Like I do think that there is an issue because like okay, so like I think Stone Toss is a great example where like if you look at Stone Toss's comics, he does make jokes and they are funny. I will admit that. Like Stone Toss is a very clever person in the way that he sets up his jokes and like the punch. I do find him like very, very clever and very funny. But at the same time, like there's clearly a political motivation behind his jokes, and it is very clearly, you know, reprehensible and very far right. Um, but and like I do get that, and I do think there is an issue with that, and there's an issue with disseminating that type of humor, which is very clearly reinforcing like far right beliefs. But also at the same time, I feel like a lot of lefties in particular have sort of like taken that and used that premise to justify like any usage of like edgy humor at all, which I just think is like probably dumb.
I mean, the only solution as a lefty is just simply just be as edgy as humanly possible and just don't care what people say. Just do the
Wow,
come
that's
down.
pretty edgy.
Take the come town route, which is just being extremely edgy to a
Yeah,
point
just
to where
being
like,
so edgy that you accidentally get a right wing following.
and then like ban half of them.
I think that's something that's important to keep in mind too with being edgy is like I think Vosh talked about this with Count Dankula or whatever, and it's like you have to look at the audience who you're making like some of your jokes to. Like are you poking fun at racist by like making a joke that could seem sort of racist, but it's the intent is to make fun of racists themselves? Or are you just making a racist joke
Yeah,
and you have your
that's
audience just
basically what
like
I'm saying.
yeah, just reciprocating it. Like it really depends on like who you're delivering the joke to and how they're taking it. Like
Yeah.
that's such
That's
a
where it gets
core
really
like element.
messy. That's where it gets really messy. And I think I was talking to Alex about this the other day. And it's like I feel like personally, like, and this isn't to be like self-aggrandizing. I've just really been really into comedy for like a really long time, and I feel like I have a pretty good ability at like understanding the intent behind certain jokes. But like, I think it gets weird when we try to understand how other people are going to react to something, because I could very clearly imagine myself making a joke that's like pretty edgy, but like the intent is obviously to like be anti-racist, and nonetheless that could still be interpreted by some people as racist, in a sense that and the real issue for me isn't the issue for me isn't lefties finding jokes racist and getting offended. The issue is right-wingers finding jokes racist and using them to reinforce their own racism. Like, that's the big issue. And it just seems really hard to, like, I guess, avoid that. I don't know. It's complicated, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my gosh. Speaking of that, there's someone posting a meme of the. I remember when PewDiePie said the N-word when he was playing.
Yeah.
It's just really convenient. I got on Twitter for like 1 second, and that was like the first meme that popped up as someone like making fun of that. Edginess is just difficult. Like, I don't think we should just be anti-edgy, which I know like a lot of lefties do, because I think that leaves like a ton of people like out to go find where they can be, you know, make an edgy comment, and then that's gonna be, you know, your 4chans and your whatever other like alt-right like spaces. It's just like, but we also don't want to be like reinforcing like actual like racism or other forms of like oppression. There's like a
It's a tightrope.
yeah.